Savitri has come a long way in her journey in search of her soul. She has crossed many an obstacle, many a challenges, many a difficulties. And the last of these, we saw the last of the stages before finding the soul was the triple soul forces. She could have stopped there, identifying with one of the three Madonnas, one of the three soul powers, become a being of mercy and kindness and love and sweetness and care. Or identifying with the Madonna of might, she could have done heroic deeds upon earth, fighting for what is true and beautiful and noble and high. Or identifying with the Madonna of light, she could have become a saint or a sage, a guru, not the modern gurus, the guru, truly one who sheds light. But she knows that this is not going to change earthly nature. It helps, it uplifts. All these three soul powers help earth nature to lift towards God in their own way. But the final answer to man's misery does not lie here. One has to go deeper. And so she looks on all the three, gives them a promise, a word of hope, and then moves further. In the course of our journey, we too come across these three soul powers in the course of one life or over lives, when we too can, as the Gita mentions, living by Swadharma, one can become one of the vibhutis of some power or aspect of the divine consciousness. And maybe stop there. It may be all right as a stage, but one should not mistake a stage for the goal. So it's possible for any of us in the course of the journey to become a being of love and care, of mercy and kindness, or a being of strength and might, or a being of light, wisdom and compassion. These divine energies are given to everyone. But equally we can usurp, or something in us, the ignorant human nature, the lower nature, may usurp all these and turn it into its shadow, a dark side as it were. So the energy is given to endure and heal and succor may turn upon oneself, and then one becomes a being of suffering. One begins to identify with the suffering in a wrong way, look upon earth as nothing but suffering, God as a cruel tyrant torturing us, and then one is full of nothing but grumbling and complaining. It's a sign that one is caught up by the shadow of that falls upon earth, and one should be very careful if these thoughts and feelings come. Or else the energy is given to fight for what is true and beautiful and noble may turn into a tyrant strength, a cruel king who just wants to expand his empire by any means whatsoever. Or else the light, the intelligence given to us may again turn into the sense of a proud and arrogant mind who feels that there is none other than me, none equal to me, none greater or superior to me. So this is where we got the wonderful lesson from the triple soul forces. And while one encounters these ranges, one has to pass further. So Savitri goes further in search of a secret soul. And we have this wonderful canto full of lovely images, very profound images, where Sri Aurobindo at once reveals many things together. Book 7, Canto 5, The Finding of the Soul, page 522. Now it's interesting, sometimes we have some interesting correlation of events, particularly when it happens during a reading of Savitri, either here or dining room, then it gives an added joy. So Today we have Mahashivratri. And very interestingly, we are going to read something where we'll see many of these images and symbols coming up. In fact, the very first two lines reveal to us the deeper sense of what is this Mahashivratri. How can God be associated, or a being, godlike being, be associated with something like night? That too not just ordinary night, but a tremendous night. Maha, it's not just an ordinary Ratri. Mahashivratri. And here we have these two lines. Onward she passed, seeking the soul's mystic cave. At first, she stepped into a night of God. This is the Mahashivratri. It is that night in which everything, every support, every prop is just taken away from us. And in a state of utter abandon, we give ourselves to the Lord. That is the state and condition required for the meeting of two poles, the divine soul and the material nature. That's what the union of Shiva and Shakti means. Mother has herself written it, that it is the union of divine soul and material nature. Now look at it, so interesting. Now that we are talking about it, just a little bit aside. It is this that can redeem earth nature. Nothing else can redeem it. All other things will be nice, good things, uplifting, help on the way. But only when the divine soul comes together and marries. We read just the previous page, the holy marriage. So this is the holy marriage, the marriage of spirit with matter. The marriage of heaven with earth. And if this can take place, then there is a hope and a chance for the earth's redemption. And that is why we see in Shiva's marriage, who is accompanying him? All the bhutas and pishachas and rakshasas and asuras. Why? Now they know we have a hope and a chance. Because if Shiva gets married to Parvati, to material nature, then they have a chance to be redeemed. That's why they are accompanying. They are thrilled with the prospect of his marriage. And everybody is frightened. How come all these elemental energies? Here it's also necessary to just clear one common misconception when we use the word soul. Sri Aurobindo says it's used very, very loosely. For instance, oh, he's a good soul, he's a wicked soul. So when somebody spoke this in front of mother scolded. She said, you don't know what the soul is. The soul is never wicked. We heard that story 3 days back. Even at the last moment, somebody who was all his life living in a very arrogant ego, a true story, I mean it's amazing, comes here just for 3 days, who never believed in Mother and Sri Aurobindo, never believed in anything like divinity, comes 3 days before in a strange set of circumstances, just to die here, and before dying feels repentant, asks for forgiveness and feels an opening towards Mother and Sri Aurobindo. The soul is there. Even in the densest of darkness it is there. That's why the world can hope. There is hope not because of politics and systems and things like that. It will be foolish to look for hope there. There is hope because there is soul within, and there is hope because there is grace above. That's why there is hope. And if they are not there, then whatever we may do, there is no hope. So this is the night of God. So this soul is different. It's the divine element, the spark which is within us. And there is none who is bereft of it. At the same time, the soul is not another misconception, particularly in Indian thought. And it has come also in the Western thought in a different way. So there are mediums and spirit talkers who draw the soul of somebody, all kinds of things. Nowadays it has come even in advertisement that a man is drawing the soul of the husband who has died, and the lady asks him, because she wants to know, where is my husband? So a medium calls him into himself, and the lady says, where have you kept our Bima policy? And he says, oh, I am so sorry, I have forgotten. And she scolds him even then. And poor fellow is scared. So, this is not the soul. Similarly, bhutas and pretas, they are not soul, they are elemental beings. Poor fellow, they are suffering. Bhutas are elemental beings, elemental energies. We saw in the very beginning when Savitri surges out of the body, she comes across many of these elemental beings who cry and call her, and they can do nothing. They are poor fellows, they are miserable creatures. One should pray for them. The pretas are disembodied vital beings. Just like these are elemental energies of the most material vital, there are disembodied vital, disintegrating vital of those who have passed or in their own domain, and they are the pretas. So they are looking for their own redemption, and they can only be redeemed if there is a meeting of the divine soul and matter. So this is about a little aside about the Shivratri part. At first she stepped into a night of God. So what happens when we enter the night of God, which is different from the night of despair, the night of hell? The light was quenched that helps the laboring world. The power that struggles and stumbles in our life. This inefficient mind gave up its thoughts, the striving heart its unavailing hopes. So normally we are so full of our mind, our thought, our intelligence, our intellectual pride, and we turn to it. We discover as we come nearer to the soul, first thing we discover is that the pride of the mind has no meaning at all. There is a very nice pad by Guru Nanak, great mystic, one of the two great mystics Sri Aurobindo has appreciated is Guru Nanak and Saint Kabir. And he says in one of the pad, Sadho man ka maan tyago. Very first line. If you are proud of the intellect, forget about the soul. Enjoy that roller coaster ride. In fact, Sri Aurobindo at one place says that, is the divine something less or greater than the mind? Is he something less than the mind that the mind can analyze and understand, or he can be made to answer before a tribunal of justice? If so, then he is not worth achieving, worth finding. And if he is greater than the mind, then the way has to be by quietening the mind, by discarding the pride of the mind, not mind itself. Mind can become a beautiful instrument of the divine light. But by shedding of the pride and then going further, seeking for that greater light. So the first thing that happens to Savitri is that all our false hopes, our all kinds of things to which we tag ourselves, attach ourselves, swift hopes and swift despairs, all that is taken away. Because we are entering the sanctum sanctorum. All knowledge failed and the ideas forms, and wisdom screened in awe her lowly head. We read about wisdom in the previous canto. Even that becomes nothing before that mightiness, that glory. No words can describe or speak about it. So even wisdom bows down before that throne. Feeling a truth too great for thought or speech. Formless, ineffable, forever the same. Sri Ramakrishna used to put it in this way, that when the jar is half full, then it makes a lot of noise. When it is full, then it doesn't make noise. But Sri Aurobindo completes that analogy actually elsewhere. He says, but you see, if you use this analogy incorrectly, then Sri Ramakrishna himself spoke so much after he had the realization. And we see Sri Aurobindo writing so many books. Now what happens is that because it is so full, it just flows and flows and flows. It's not noise. It's something else. It's a flowing in every way, in every direction. Swami Vivekananda. But when it is half full, so what happens then? One wants to convert everybody, wants to convert others, wants to show off the knowledge. But when it becomes full, then one is so full of delight. One knows that in that home, as a great mystic has said, what does knowledge do? She has got a job in the home of the Lord. And the job is to pull buckets of water from the well of delight. That's its job. Nothing more than that. Because that is something beyond even knowledge. An innocent and holy ignorance, pure of all that, particularly this mind which perverts things, this clamor of the desires in the vital, this restlessness of the physical, because that is stripped off, there is a state of holiness. But because one does not yet know that which one is seeking, therefore there is ignorance. So Sri Aurobindo beautifully uses the word holy ignorance. That is the night of God. Adored like one who worships formless God. One just feels a presence. Now we see one image coming here. The unseen light she could not claim nor own. In a simple purity of emptiness, her mind knelt down before the unknowable. This is the only choice before the human mind, either to abdicate itself to the light, or as the mother says, if it tries to dash against the infinite, it will be broken. There are people who lose head. Because often we are driven by vanity of knowledge, pride of intellect. And it's grace that the divine doesn't really reveal to such a mind. It's a paradox. Because if it were to reveal itself in all its glory, this mind will be shattered. It has to surrender before that. We cannot imagine what that vastness is. All was abolished save her naked self and the prostrate yearning of her surrendered heart. This is the state of soul seeking. The mind kneels down before the ineffable, knowing it is inadequate to know, knowing that it is only grace that can reveal itself, its own mysteries, its own truths. And the heart is surrendered, as thou willest, when thou willest. That is the perfect state for this great discovery. There was no strength in her, no pride of force. So till we say, oh, I am doing yoga, I am doing sadhana, even more dangerous, I am doing yoga, others are not doing yoga. I am a sadhak, others are badhaks. That means we have not started on the way. The way starts when we know that actually, what am I? What sadhana can one do? If you just look at Mother and Sri Aurobindo, really it is only they. When someone asks Sri Aurobindo, why don't you say, there are people who are ahead, so why don't you allow us to use words like advanced sadhaks? So Sri Aurobindo says, advanced? Oh, few inches above and few inches inside. There are many jokes about this fact. There was the famous Hardan Bhai, Hardan Bakshi, and had slightly, had lost his little balance. So, when somebody asked him, those good old days, tell us about some advanced sadhaks here. He said, come close, I will tell you. There are only two. Who? Don't tell anyone. No, I won't tell. One is you and one is me. And when wisdom comes, then we say, there are only two, Mother and Sri Aurobindo. This is, actually it's a fact of experience. It's not something to be told. Because one discovers it. So this is her state. When she comes close, there was no strength in her, no pride of force. The lofty burning of desire had sunk, ashamed, a vanity of separate self. The hope of spiritual greatness fled. I want to be a yogi, I want to be what is it called? Guru, I want to be a Swami. When will I become a Swami? All these are dangerous things. Sri Aurobindo makes it so very clear. In fact, if one comes with these ideas, they are taken away. One is shown the real truth about oneself, and then one ultimately becomes a little baby. Then one is ready for that great discovery. This is a very interesting poem of Sri Aurobindo, Mahatma. In Mahatma, there is a story of how somebody became a Mahatma. Kutumi. So this man comes and wants knowledge, and he is told that you practice yoga. So Sri Aurobindo says he practiced Hatha Yoga, and not what people here practice, but the Hatha Yoga of the old kings. And in 3 days he achieves what Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, these people had done yoga and achieved. So he comes back, shining like a yogi, everything. And then he says, well, I have done this. So he says, no, this is not enough. You control your mind. So he does that. Raj Yoga. Ancient Raj Yoga, not what we practice here. And he gets a lot of powers inside him. Then again he comes, full of all kinds of powers and glories and things inside. And he comes to Krishna Dvaipayan Vyas and he says, now I have come. He says, okay, now use all your powers to find Krishna. Now, he sends his power far and wide, uses all his knowledge and power. Maybe he is in Yudhishthira's court. No. Maybe he is in king's. No. Nowhere. Everywhere he sends. He doesn't find. Then ultimately he sees that there is a mad-like man who is dancing on the slopes of a mountain, very happy, but he is not revealing the cause of his delight to anyone. So he goes there and there he sees Krishna. But as he goes near this being who is jumping and dancing, he just gives him a kick and all knowledge, all power vanishes from him. He is in a state of utter emptiness. And then this dancing, ecstatic child tells him, you beggar, take back your gifts. And then he is humbled. In that state of humility, he gives him back the gifts and says, okay, now I grant you, you be the Mahatma. For so many cycles you reign, till finally I will come back again. Your work is to maintain hope in this world till I will once again come back. Krishna will return and atheism shall be wiped out from this world. So this state where everything that one has acquired, achieved, appears so insignificant, nothing. Mother speaks of that state of humility, that before the divine we are nothing. This is the state which is conducive to the discovery of the soul. So Savitri has reached that state. Hope of spiritual greatness. Salvation she asked not, nor a heavenly crown. Humility seemed now too proud a state. You can't even say, I am humble before thee, O Lord. What does that which has become nothing say? All that it says is, if at all, this whole creation is dust, but let me be a dust below thy feet. It's a very beautiful mystic poem sung by Abida Parveen, in which he says, नूर की आंख का सुरमा बन जा, खा के दरे जानना बन जा. Oh, if I can become, you know what is surma? Surma is dark, burnt off. So when you burn off something, it becomes dark, kala, kajal. Yet, if you put it in the eyes, it adds to the beauty. It's the beauty of the surma. Otherwise, dark, useless thing. So he says, yes, I am useless and dark, but may I become that in your eyes, O Lord. Or खा के दरे जानना बंचा. May I become the dust below your feet. Whole creation is dust. But perhaps if you put your feet below this dust, I shall be redeemed. Another way to put it mathematically, The world is zero, God is one. It's divine mathematics. Put the zero before one, one remains one, you remain zero. Put the zero after one, one becomes, zero becomes 10. It has nothing to do with the zero. It is just a question of placing itself at the right place. So this is the state that Savitri is in, a state we all must be. Herself was nothing, God alone was all. Yet God she knew not, but only knew He was. It doesn't matter. One has not had yet the vision or the direct experience, but He is there, this eye of faith. Mother says, when you come to yoga, be ready to discard everything, abandoning all your mental conceptions, your ideas, your opinions, your viewpoints, and hang by nothing but your faith. That is the state for seeking the divine. And these things stick around. We don't realize it. The famous story of somebody who came earlier, people had to write to Mother and Sri Aurobindo, and Mother and Sri Aurobindo would say yes, then people could come. So there was a person who was reading Sri Aurobindo's books and felt very nice and wanted to come, and every time he would write, Mother would say no, no, no. So one of his well-meaning but ill-understanding friend told, doesn't matter, just come over. Are, aa jao, kya hai? Mother is there, So he came, listening to this advice and discarding the Divine Mother's wisdom. So he came and he was sitting in one of the guest houses, and while he is waiting for the ashram secretary to come, because word has gone around that so and so has come unannounced, he suddenly sees one of the Ajanta's frescoes on the walls. And he suddenly starts wondering, is spiritual place hai? What kind of spiritual place it is? What has this got to do with Ajanta painting? I thought I will see some god painting here or something else. Ajanta paintings. So he starts getting restless. And then he is waiting, should I stay, should I go, is it worth it, is it not worth it? And eventually he goes away. You see, there are countless such things that stick around us. We don't even realize. Mother uses the word, each one has his own sibboleth, conception of God, conception of divine. Now a time comes when we are stripped of everything, and all that remains is faith. Faith burning in the heart. Faith blazing in all the parts of our being. It knows not, it sees not, but something within it is aware that yes, the divine is there. So that is the state of Savitri. Herself was nothing, God alone was all. Yet God she knew not, but only knew He was. In that state, whatever happens to oneself, it doesn't matter. One lives or one dies. One thing one knows is that the divine is there. That's all. So that is the state of seeking. Now once again we have this Maharatri of God, is sacred darkness brooded now within. That is the meeting point. At one point of time, this image had come to me in a different way, that the divine wants to meet us. He is shy of crowds and he is shy of, too much public attention. So he wants to meet us all alone in a state of sacred darkness. When nobody is there, nothing is there, we are not filled with people and this and that. Then he meets us. There is a very beautiful Sanskrit word which captures it, Naisargik Avastha. There is nothing which is covering. All the covering and teguments are torn. All the pride is taken away. That poem of Tagore, Jake Tomi Bohite Chaho Apar Premir Bhar, Eke Bare Sabai Tomi Ghochaye Dao Tar. Please excuse my Bengali, which is horrible, I know, but the sense is very good. He whom you want to bear the burden of your universal love, in one go, you strip him bare and naked of all that covers him. Sabai tar, clothes. Na thake tar man apman. Some people will stone him, call him mad. Some people will say, no, he is very wise person. Na thake tar maan, na thake tar apman. And you make him akinchan. Nothing. That's why the Gita uses the word aniket. Aniket doesn't mean he's wandering about, but he has no home which he can call his own. And when he is prepared like that, then you pour your universal love upon such a being. Jaake tumi bohite chaho apar premer bhar. So this is the state. The world was a deep darkness, great and nude. This void held more than all the teeming worlds, this void in which Savitri has entered, the sacred darkness. This blank felt more than all that time has borne. This dark knew dumbly, immensely the unknown. But all was formless, voiceless, infinite. That state can continue for days, weeks, Sri Aurobindo. For months he remained in that state. And the whole world appeared like a shadowy dream. And then slowly, new knowledge begins to pour in. Mother speaks of this state when she comes and meets Sri Aurobindo, and he says, her husband is talking to Sri Aurobindo all kinds of things and high philosophies. He says, I just sat near. And slowly, because he had so many experiences and realizations, with that she had constructed a very vast synthesis. And all that slowly collapsed, vanished. We cannot imagine with all those realizations he has had, that vanished. And a state of blankness was there. And Mother speaks of that state in her very next prayer, like a newborn child who has no past and no future. And then slowly in that state of blankness, new knowledge begins to pour in, because it's full of the unborn, of the unmanifest. That begins to pour in. But all was formless, voiceless, infinite. As might a shadow walk in a shadowy scene, a small knot passing through a mightier knot, a night of person in a bare outline, crossing a fathomless impersonal night. That is the state of utter darkness, where even all that one called oneself as this is me, that is taken away. One cannot identify with any of those things with which one habitually identified oneself. It's strange. We are habitually identified with many things. And when this state comes, then if somebody addresses us with that state, one wonders, who is this person? Probably somebody who is no more there, like a ghost who is still persisting in subconscious parts. Silent she moved, empty and absolute. In endless time her soul reached a wide end. The spaceless vast became her spirit's place. Then Savitri reaches a state of vastness. This brooding darkness, this holy ignorance suddenly seems to spread out into a vastness. At last, a change approached. The emptiness broke. A wave rippled within. The world had stirred. Once more, her inner self became her space. Then slowly, the whole nature begins to be recreated in a new image. That's how the new consciousness comes. And what happens then? The first sign, there was felt a blissful nearness to the goal. There are two signs that the divine is near us, he is touching us. Very often people want to know, how does one know that one has found the soul, and one wants to have something magical like having a vision. This is the first thing we think. Well, it can appear like that. But one of the first signs is the joy of nearing the goal. The joy of knowing that one has entered the sanctum sanctorum of the Lord. The joy of being fully aware that the beloved is near. It's like knowing that one is at the door, this is the door, and he is going to open this door very soon. the joy of waiting upon the divine. So one knows it. So there is a blissful nearness to the goal. Another one is peace. Heaven leaned low to kiss the sacred hill. The sacred hill is the whole being. It's like a mounting fire we have become. And the heaven, all the things which are above, concealed in the higher hemisphere, higher consciousness, they lean down and bestow their kiss, their power, something of their gleamings, their glories. They begin to enter into us, pour into us. The air trembled with passion and delight. Life is filled with a new energy, a new enthusiasm, and a new joy. A rose of splendor on a tree of dreams, the face of dawn out of mooned twilight grew. Moon twilight is the spiritual mind which is still struggling in the night, but there is some light which has begun to come. Now out of that, the sun is going to dawn. So what happens when the sun is going to dawn? It's a very beautiful image. And a mystic poet has again very beautifully expressed it in 2 lines. अब नखत अमा के डूब गए, सारा आकाश तुम्हारा है. He tells the sun, all these stars, even the moon and the fire of the hearths has vanished. डूब गए. They are no more there. So now, O sun, O splendor, come out. The whole sky is for you. Very powerful image. सब सूरज, सब तारे चंदा डूब गए, सारा आकाश तुम्हारा है. The whole come. Wait, even spiritual mind. We read about the spiritual ego. Oh, I know it. I can do this. I can explain. All this has no meaning. In that state, one waits for that sun, the supramental sun, to come out. Day came, a priest of a sacrifice of joy, into the worshipping silence of her world. So slowly the dawn arises. There is the dawn of a new consciousness. And in that dawn, one discovers that all life, everything is nothing but a ceaseless sacrifice to the Lord. So all that life which was being lived for the ego and egoistic ends, that becomes impossible to the new consciousness. And one begins to live for the sake of the divine. It becomes spontaneous. Priest of a sacrifice of joy. That is how the soul is described by the ancient Vedic rishis. Agnir Hotaram. It is the priest. When that true priest is not there, then we have the mental priest, which is really, it doesn't know anything. It only knows perhaps the mantras by rote. I can vouchsafe for it because I had something similar experience on a very material plane. So during my marriage or our marriage in Shillong, we had a local Pandit on Shillong. Where do you get Pandits in Air Force setup? So he started doing some mantras. Luckily, there was a real Pakka Pandit who had, out of the total 9 persons accompanying me, he was one of them. So when he was listening to all the chanting, he said, he doesn't know. I can do the whole prayer. So strangely, he was there. And he knew all the chantings, all these mantras, their secret significance in the true way. So when the mind does it, it is not the real priest. It poses as a priest. It's like before the teacher comes, the monitor is there. But monitor is not the teacher. But when the teacher comes, monitor immediately sits down. Its role is over. So this priest has emerged out, the priest of the sacrifice. And now we have a very beautiful image that who is really the priest, even externally. What does it mean? All the priests, we say, they have a janeo and they have a tikka and they have a choti. So what does it mean? So Sri Aurobindo beautifully, what does it mean? We see it's so full of symbols. When the soul has, the nearness of the soul is felt, not even the emergence. There is a dawn of a new consciousness, of that light of the soul. And life has become a sacrifice of joy and a state of worship. Then we see, he carried immortal luster as his robe. The white dhoti or the orange dhoti is nothing but the luster, because now there is a nearness of the soul which is being felt. Out of the night, one is stepping into the first gleam. You see, the sun does not straight away rise. There is a gleam, and that luster is felt. So there is that luster which is felt within, and it begins to come out of the robes of mind and heart and life. Trailed heaven like a purple scarf and wore as his vermilion caste mark a red sun. Red sun. That glory stepping into matter. We are told about Kapali Shastri ji that concentrating so much in the heart, even his chest bore a red mark because of that intense concentration. So when that state comes, then we are truly qualified to be a priest. That were the priests in the Vedic times. They were not made because of being Sharma or Pandey or Tripathi or Chaturvedi. There is nothing to do with any of these things. The Janeu itself meant Dvij, the 7 threads. So one is twice born. Dvij means twice born. The first birth is birth as in matter, with material parents. The second birth is birth in the spirit, when one knows one's divine parents. Then one becomes a Dvij. So this is the real caste mark, the sign of the true Brahmin. It is that he lives in the consciousness of the emerging soul. Even if he is not identified with it, at least there is the gleaming, that light. As if an old remembered dream come true, then what happens? She recognized in her prophetic mind the imperishable luster of that sky. I have lived this life earlier too. This is something which is coming back again in this life, in this form. In fact, that's how some of the past life images can come to one, the moment one enters nearer and nearer to the soul. The tremulous sweetness of that happy air, sweetness begin to well up from within. Madhurya, that is the state of the soul. By its nature, it is full of sweetness. It does not know any other bhava. It is full of sweetness, love and delight. So there is a sweetness, not the artificial sweetness of the salesman who is always bearing a sweet smile, but the real sweetness, sweetness of the heart. And covered from mind's view and life's approach, the mystic cavern in the sacred hill, and knew the dwelling of her secret soul. So we see all these images. Image of a priest. Slowly one is walking through the night, then the day is gleaming, and slowly one adorns the priestly dress, and then one sees, here is the hill. Here I must enter. This light is coming from there, and I must enter here and discover my secret soul. And where is this hill? Normally we have this, famous journey to Amarnath where we go and one has to bow down and go through that cavern. And many of these caves, so we have a description of this cave. Sri Aurobindo with his tremendous sense of humor. As if in some Elysian occult depth, some sacred inner depth, truth's last retreat from thought's profaning touch, as if in a rock temple's solitude hid, God's refuge from an ignorant, worshipping world. That's where the divine hid himself. Why has he hid himself here? Because he knows the moment I go anywhere, man will find me. And what will he do? It will become another Tirupati. All that will be left of the divine will be laddus, tasty though they are, money and hair and jewelry and gold. Finished. Divine has to bear all this. He has no choice. He can't run away. Devotees can run away from such places, but he has no choice. So that's what happens. So finally divine tries to hide somewhere where only the genuine seeker will reach. Where to hide? Where to hide? So he says, well, man will always seek outside because all the senses are turned outside. Let me hide inside him. That's one place where he will never turn. So Sri Aurobindo uses the word thoughts profaning touch. People write books about what divine is, they try to define. When Mother was asked, who is the divine? What is the divine? Mother says, the divine can be lived and experienced. He cannot be defined. And then, of course, he said the person was shocked. So she had to again say, ultimate of perfection of all that we aspire to be. Few more lines, then we'll stop. As if in a rock temple, solitude hid. Sri Aurobindo speaks about these rock temples very highly. He appreciates the Ajanta temples and he describes in great detail. And some other temples will also come. God's refuge from an ignorant worshipping world, it lay withdrawn even from life's inner sense, receding from the entangled heart's desire. He's there in the depth of the heart, but you cannot find him as long as there is the cry of desire. A marvelous, brooding twilight met the eyes, and a holy stillness held that voiceless space. An awful dimness wrapped the great rock doors, carved in the massive stone of mattered strands. So, there is a stillness that comes as we approach the soul. When people asked Mother, how to make the mind still? So they, all kinds of techniques and methods. Mother did not, she said, you can try that by going through the mind. But there are problems in that. One enters into a state of impersonality, but not to go into that detail. She gave a very simple method. She said, go deep into the heart. Go deep into the heart and you will discover there the stillness. That stillness is the entry point of the soul. And as one goes more and more into interiorization and concentration, a point comes when one passes from a zone of restlessness or thoughts or whatever activities into a zone of inner stillness. And that's the point when one is near the door of the soul. So we'll take a break, and after 10 minutes we will enter this marvelous gate with Sri Aurobindo holding us.